Hope everyone is doing fantastic this December 9th. The weather's very nice here in Lincoln, although I have not been out, but it certainly looks nice. And I think we will go ahead and get started. So just welcome everyone to another edition of Serving Up Great School Meals. This is what we think of as our holiday edition of Serving Up. And I hope everyone is getting ready for the holidays. We certainly are at Nutrition Services. So let's just cover a few of the housekeeping things. Once again, please type your email into the chat box. And continuing education certificates are available for download on the Nutrition Services website. Remember, this is a great way to get training hours for your professional standards. When we first started Serving Up Great School Meals back in June, we were emailing those out, those certificates, but we trust you to complete your own certificate. So please just download it from the Nutrition Services website. You can find it under the school lunch training, and the certificate is available for you to print and complete. And that's your record that you've attended this training for your professional standards. So moving on to the next slide, just a couple of housekeeping tips. Please use the chat box for any questions you can have. Before we had everyone join us, I mentioned that we are always looking for topics to cover in Serving Up Great School Meals. It's been very hectic in past months with all of the different waivers and changes, and hopefully those have slowed down a little bit. But if there is anything that you would like us to present on, that you want more information on, that maybe we need to go back and review, please let us know, and we will certainly plan for that. But we need to know what you would like to hear about. So please enter your thoughts into the chat box, or you can email us, whatever is most convenient for you. Or think about it. You know, if nothing comes to your mind right now, and tomorrow or even next week, something pops into your head, yeah, I want to know more about that, just reach out to us. We ask that you all mute your microphone during the presentation. When we get to the question and answer section at the end of the presentation, you can certainly unmute your microphone to ask your questions. We'll go through the chat box questions and answer those. So we'll just keep moving through the presentation. And once again, happy holidays to everyone. It's nice to have you with us today. So the agenda for today's Zoom meeting, news to know. We always start with what you need to know and any administrative reminders that need to be happening, should have happened, or coming up that you need to be aware of. Meal pattern compliance, food safety considerations. We're going to have a little information about the USDA Farm to School grants, and then we'll end today's presentation with question and answers. So, news to know. Thank you for using our new cell phone numbers. When we had the transition to working remotely, we were using our personal phones, our personal cell phones, and we are happy to have new work cell phones that you can reach us at. And many of you are using those new work cell phone numbers. If you are wondering what those numbers are, you can certainly find those numbers on the Nutrition Services website, or we have them in the signature line of our emails. Personal office landlines. So if you're familiar with our landline in the state office building, those numbers are going to be disconnected at the end of December. The nutrition services numbers that are the main numbers for contacting, the 1-800 number for individuals that are calling from outside of Lincoln, and then the local office number, those will still be working numbers. We ask that you use those numbers if you want to call the main office, and you can certainly leave a message. But for us program specialists, we continue to work remotely. So the quickest way to get a hold of us is via our email or by calling our work cell phones. Moving on to the next slide. We are so happy to welcome our new office associates. These two individuals started on Monday, December 7th, so they are brand new. Morgan Rooster and Rebecca Havocan joined us, and once again, so happy to have them. With our two new office associates, we are saying not goodbye to Jenna Hilligoss, who was our office associate, but congrats on her transition to her new position as a program specialist. Jenna's expertise will be working with the CMP system and on reporting requirements, because there are a lot of reporting requirements to USDA. So that will be her specialty. There will be the transition period of training our two new office associates, and so Jenna will be heavily involved in that. You certainly can still reach out to Jenna for whatever your needs are as far as what she's helped you with in the past, but she will be passing the reins on to Morgan and Rebecca. We want to bring your attention to mark your calendars for the next Serving Up Great School Meals. It's scheduled for January 20th at 2 p.m. So please mark your calendars, kind of be aware of that. We'll send out our reminders as that date gets closer. But once again, looking for what you're interested in knowing more about. So next slide. The first thing that you need to know, okay, is that health inspections for school year 1920, they're required. We've talked about this in previous sessions of Serving Up Great School Meals, and we still have numerous districts that have not submitted their health inspections. Once again, you are reporting for school year 1920, so it's last year. Where you can find the food safety inspection report is under applications for the program year, school year 2021. And if you're unfamiliar, gosh, did we submit that or not? You can click on the food safety inspection report, and you will see that for school year 1920, for this particular example, it hasn't been submitted. So that's how you can tell. If you have a received date and the view admin on the side, it's been submitted. I know in all the chaos of everything happening that this might be something that got overlooked, but this is a friendly reminder that it was due October 15th. And the reason for its importance is we have to report that information to USDA. And hopefully we won't get to the point where any reimbursement claims have to be withheld, but we do need that form completed. Moving on to the next slide. Verification. We've talked about verification at previous Serving Up Great School Meals. In case you missed it, it is required for school year 2021. So it's required for all schools that received meal applications. So at the beginning of the year, I'm sure that the vast majority, if not all of our schools received applications. So even if you're operating under the summer food service program, you have to complete verification for this school year. A cover sheet explaining the importance of households responding to verification was sent in an email last Thursday, from Katie Parch. If you are an SFA that has already notified your households, or even if you've completed verification, if you've completed verification, you don't need to do anything. But if you are still in the process of contacting your households or sending reminders that if they have not responded to verification, please use the cover sheet in that continued correspondence with a household. It just explains why they need to complete verification. It's not going to affect their eligibility for receiving free meals this school year, but it does have an impact potentially on carryover for next school year. And also, it does have an impact for those households that may be eligible to receive additional SNAP benefits through the EBT. So once again, it's important. Next slide. Now, the verification report that's in the CMP system has to be completed by February 28th. So that date has been extended. The date originally, and in the form, it states November 15th. We can't modify the USDA form, but USDA did extend the deadline to February 28th. So ample time to complete verification efforts and to complete the verification report in the CMP system. So when you get to that point where you are completing the verification report, you will be using information indicated for the dates listed in the report. So the dates listed in the report is reporting information from October 1st and then again on October 31st. Moving on to the next slide. A reminder, school food authorities with all feeding sites that are participating in the community eligibility provision, CEP, or our educational service units are not required to conduct verification, but they have to complete the verification report with the information that is required. Okay, so they will not be reporting results of verification. They will only be completing the first section of the report and submitting it. And it's really not submitting, it's completing it. So just a friendly reminder that yes, those schools that participate as CEP or our educational service units, it's still a requirement to complete the report. Next slide. Next thing we want to talk about, and I just want to mention that most of our topics that we're talking about are the result of questions we have received from our SFAs. And so our thought is if one SFA is asking the question, perhaps other SFAs have the same question. So this was a question that we received about the after-school care snack program. And so a little background about the after-school care snack program is that it operates under the school meals program. And it can operate at the same time that a sponsor is participating in the summer food service program. But this only applies to our SFAs that are participating in the after-school care snack program. So snack is still being offered at those schools because they operate an after-school care snack program. Claims for the after-school care snack program have to be submitted in the school meals program. There is nowhere to submit that in the summer food service program. That is a separate program and it falls under the school meals program. So what this means for those sponsors that operate the after-school care snack program in the school meals program, and they also participate in the summer food service program, is that you will need to submit 2 different claims. One for the SFSFP program for breakfast and lunch, if those are the 2 meals that you serve, and for the school meals program for the after-school care snack program. Next slide. Another question that is frequently asked is, why doesn't my claim go through? You know, I am participating in the summer food service program and I can't get my claim to go through. Well, oftentimes it's because of a rounding issue. And average daily attendance in the summer food service program is what I want to explain. It is first meals divided by days of food service equals average daily attendance. And this is something that you always round up on. So on the example on the screen, we can see that our total first meals served were 1,945. We divide by the number of days food was served in the month, and that happened to be 18. And when we do the math, that number is 108.05. Well, we can't have a part of a student, so you always round up. So it has to be 109 for the average daily attendance. So really want to emphasize that because we get a lot of questions about claims will not go through, and it's because of the rounding. You always round up when you're talking part of a student or a student. Always round up. And that's how I always explain it is. You can't have part of a child or a student. You have to round up. So next slide. Another question that's come in is, what are the second meals in the summer food service program? We see it on the claim. What is it? Well, what a second meal is in the summer food service program, and remember, this program has different requirements and rules than the school meals program. So a second meal in the summer food service program is an additional complete meal served to a child. And once again, specific only to the summer food service program. And with that being said, NDE is not allowing the service claiming of second meals during this unique time. And it's a question of equity because you are operating the summer food service program based on the waiver granted from USDA to allow free meals during this time. It's not how the summer food service program would normally operate and work for children. Okay, so NDE has made the decision not to allow the service and claiming of these second meals. And as a little footnote, if you have done this, you need to contact nutrition services, and then we will advise you. What's the best practice if a student wants additional food items? the same as what you would do during the normal school year. You would charge them a la carte for additional food items. So if you have students that have received their summer food service meal and they come back through the line for a second entree, a second carton of milk, you would charge them a la carte for those items. Moving on to the next slide. So get a lot of questions about claiming, okay? And once again, claims must be submitted no later than the 60th day from the end of the claim month. So for example, the October claim must be submitted by December 30th. Now that deadline is fast approaching. So if you have not submitted your October claim, it needs to be submitted by December 30th. The November claim must be submitted by January 29th. The December claim must be submitted no later than February 28th. I know that a lot of the individuals that submit the claims have a lot going on in their schools. And sometimes it's easy to lose track of submitting that claim, but it is vital that you follow the deadlines, meet the deadlines, so that you don't have to let our office know that you didn't, because there's very little we can do about late claims. Schools can apply for a once in every 3-year exemption for late claims, and I emphasize once in every 3 years. So be very aware of those claim due dates. And also remember, the sooner that you submit the claim, the sooner reimbursement will be received back into your food service account. So moving on to the next slide. Understanding claims. Once again, we're going to talk a little bit more about what these claim statuses mean if you are the person that is submitting the claim for reimbursement. So in the example that's on the screen, we have 3 different claim statuses. We have processed, accepted, and pending. And you want to be looking for that accepted status or processed. Processed means you've been paid, okay? Payment has been received by the SFA. Accepted means payment will be made by NDE. What you don't want to see is pending and validated. That means that the SFA has started the claiming process, but it has not been submitted to NDE. And as a result, that claim will not be paid, okay? And if you are not looking at that, clearly that might be something you would miss and could potentially go beyond the 60-day claim submission period. So once again, accepted or processed is what you want to see on your screen. If you are seeing pending or validated, it means it has not been received. As we have the break coming up, I wanted also to remind everyone that claims can be submitted on the last serving day of the month. So for example, if the last serving day for your school is December 22nd, the claim for December can be submitted after meal service that day or prior to the end of the month. So just another tip as we come up to the break period, and the timeliness of submitting claims is, just be aware you can submit it after the last service date of the month. Next slide. This has been another issue, and I anticipate it may be a future issue for some of our sponsors that are just now joining or operating the summer food service program, because we have some of our sponsors that continue to operate under the school meals program in August, September, and completed the application to participate under the summer food service program in October, November. And with increased participation in the program due to meals being offered free, counts are going up, which means reimbursement claims are also going up. So for sponsors that receive over $25,000 per month, you must have electronic transfer of funds. Those claim funds must be electronically transferred. So if you are a SFA or a sponsor that have been receiving checks in the past or continue to receive checks, and you anticipate or you see that your reimbursement is going to be over $25,000 for a claim month, you will want to make sure that you have electronic transfer. So how to do that? On our website under quick links, claim due dates, payment dates, there is a box that looks like what's in the center of your screen that says requesting electronic fund transfer. And this is what you do. You click on the W-9ACH form, which downloads for you. You complete it, and then you send a blank check, voided, to Central Accounting at NDE, and they will work with you if they need additional information. But this is the process, and so please be aware of that as we move forward and claims are submitted, and we are aware that the reimbursement that we are receiving is over $25,000. And just another note on having electronic transfer, it's encouraged. You get timelier payment. It's easier for tracking what was received for payment, and then the safety issue. I was contacted by a school this week that said, oh, we did not receive our November claim reimbursement. So immediately I thought, well, it's this electronic transfer issue. Well, it was not their electronic transfer issue in that they had already set it up, and it had been set up a long time ago. And I was able to check with accounting, and that electronic transfer happened on like November 11th. And so I was actually able to provide that information so that bookkeeper could go back and ensure that they actually had received payment. So it's just a lot easier than tracking a check in the mail. So once again, encouraging electronic fund transfer. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, now that you're operating the summer food service program, which the vast majority of our schools in Nebraska are doing, because of the flexibility and waivers permitted by USDA, what's required? Well, for our new sponsors that maybe are just starting to participate in this program, that maybe have not watched our Serving Up Great School Meals in the past, I want to emphasize that you would want to go to the desk review resource section on the summer food service page. It's under forms and resources, and it outlines what's important, what records need to be maintained for your summer food service program. These would be the records that would be requested if a desk review was completed for your program. There's a great checklist that outlines everything that needs to be happening in the summer food service program, the claim consolidation forms, the on-site review that has to be completed within the first 4 weeks of operation. And if it has not, it needs to be now. There's information on tracking program costs. This is a different program. It's as far as costs, it's essentially the same as your school meals program, but this asks that when a review is requested from our office, that you be able to demonstrate costs for 1 month of operation. There is a training documentation form that staff have been trained in the summer food service program, the aspects that they're involved in. So that is documenting who was trained, when they were trained, perhaps the topics that they were trained on. And of course, the summer food service meal pattern chart. It is a food program and you are required to meet the meal pattern requirements of the summer food service meal pattern, which does allow the flexibility to continue operating the school meals meal pattern. So that's great. Allie will cover that a little bit later in the presentation. And of course, then the importance of documentation through production records. And so Rudolph here is pointing you towards those desk review resources. So please review those if you have not. So moving on to the next slide. We've covered this pretty much in detail on the previous slide. Can't overemphasize the importance of an accurate point of service meal count. That's when the child or the student receives the reimbursable meal. That's when the point of service meal count has to be taken, when that meal is distributed. I think we've covered everything else on this slide, and let's move on to the next. And now I'm going to turn it over to Allie, and Allie's going to talk about meal pattern.
Thank you, Sean. We're going to review meal pattern. I know we've talked a lot about this, but it's just really good reminders for everyone out there to stay on track. Meal pattern compliance. There are 2 options available for the SFSP, the meal pattern for school lunch and breakfast programs, or the meal pattern for summer food service programs. Summer food service program meal pattern may be utilized if or when school changes from on-site to remote learning. Remember, you must choose 1 meal pattern to use for all students, and you can serve more than the minimum amounts required. You must indicate on your SFSP site application which meal pattern you intend to use most of the time. Production record, required production records. Daily breakfast and lunch production records are required for both on-site and take-home meals. Provide separate production records for the take-home meals if different than on-site meals, and record the date of preparation and the day each meal is intended to be consumed. Production records provide documentation that meal pattern was met each day. And another reminder, if you're using SFSP meal pattern, you can use the SFSP or the NSLP production record. Important details to include on the SFSP production record would be food items, serving and portion size, brand name, recipe, product numbers, the amount prepared, and the amount left over. Provide CN labels or product formulation statements for commercially prepared combination foods, and have documentation that verifies you met meal pattern. The details matter. Missing meal components or incomplete records can result in disallowance. So Nutrition Services recommends a procedure to review records each day to ensure all details are recorded. Past SFSP reviews have resulted in entire months of reimbursement being disallowed for not meeting the meal patterns. It's really important. So now let's talk a little bit about serving remote meals. This could happen really quickly in your district, going from on-site learning to remote learning. So having a plan in the event that this happens is best. So is it required to provide meals for remote learners? School meals may be provided to remote learners. It is a decision made by the school district. If one remote learner is offered meals, then all remote learners must be offered meals. And again, you must choose one meal pattern to use for all students. It is at the school's discretion to offer meals to students during non-school days. And now I think I'm going to pass it on to Beth. If Beth is on here,
I'm here.
You are here. Okay, you said in the chat you were, but I couldn't find your name. So I'm like, oh,
I'm hiding.
Great.
Okay, so I put some websites on in the chat box. Just quick reminder about Launch Nebraska and the resources there available for all of the school, not only just for nutrition services. The other website is the 3C posters by the Nebraska Association of Local Health Departments. It's a really good poster if you need it. And then the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website. This is an awesome, sorry, my dog's going nuts. This is about everything you need to know about COVID, but they also have hints and tips for winter break and leaving and coming back from winter break. Next slide, please. Okay, so last time we talked about the changes in the food code, and it happened. They got it out and it is published. We have a link on our website, but this is the actual link, and I will put that into the chat box here in just a minute. The only things that really changed for us are cooking temperatures and time. So poultry 165 went to instantaneously or a second. And then your ground meats, mechanically tenderized, injected meats, ground fish, ground beef, ground pork, lamb, goat, and raw eggs that are going to be hot held, like on your bar, have to go to 155 for 17 seconds. So it went from 15 seconds to 17 seconds. That's going to be hard to remember because it's been 15 seconds for probably 20 years. So, and I will put that website in the checkbox here in just a minute. Okay, next slide. I hope everyone enjoyed the food safety newsletter. If you're a manager and you did not receive it, please let me know. The other thing is we are currently working with Nebraska Extension. They had a request for emergency COVID food service plan checklist when all of the food service employees are out because of COVID. And so we're coming up with some checklists and some posters and resources for you guys to know or to help you out if you want to use it. It's just in case, and we hope to have it out next week. So, and we'll be broadcasting on social media, emails, and again, I'll shoot out a quick little newsletter with it in it. All right, next one. And I think the next one is our farm to school. And I get to do that because both Donna and Sarah are busy doing farm to school things today. So in the chat box, I also put the link for the USDA Farm to School Grant, RFA, and it can be found at that website, the fnsusda.gov, CFS Resources Farm to School Grant Program applicants. There's another one for the USDA fiscal year 21 Farm to School Grants webinars, and I put that also into the chat box. The USDA Farm to School grant applications are now open and available. It's designed to increase the availability of local foods in schools. These grants can help new farm to school programs get started or expand existing efforts. Funds support a wide range of activities from training, planning, and developing partnerships to creating new menu items, establishing supply chains, offering taste testing to children, purchasing equipment, planting school gardens, and organizing field trips to agriculture operations. FNS will competitively award grants to eligible applicants for projects that meet the purpose of the grant program. Selected grant projects will be awarded up to $100,000 each. There are 3 funding tracks available for the fiscal year 2021. New turnkey grants, implementation grants, and state agency grants. The turnkey grants have replaced the grants that previously served as planning grants and now include projects in the following 4 categories. 1, an action planning projects, 2, agricultural education curriculum projects, and 3, edible garden projects. 4, producer trainer projects. Each track along the related eligibility requirements is designed in the RFA. The link to the RFA is in the chat box. Burwell Public Schools was awarded a fiscal year 2020 USDA Farm to School grant and is a good example of a district utilizing this opportunity. Here's the description of their Farm to School grant proposal. Burwell Public Schools will develop a farm to school action plan that will provide the framework for building a culture where locally sourced foods are served in the cafeteria with farm to school curriculum and hands-on activities for students K through 12. The plan will explore new relationships with local agriculture producers for food procurement, student gardens, and greenhouse opportunities. Recipe development and taste testing events for students. Students will gain valuable habits in making healthy food choices that will decrease their risk for developing heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Students will explore agriculture careers that will directly affect the future of economic development in Burwell, Nebraska. So I'll put those websites in the chat box again. And that is it for Farm to School. So next slide. And that's me. We now have question and answers. So you can either type it into the chat box and we will take your questions, or you can unmute yourself and ask it, whichever you prefer.
Thank you, Beth. We can start with the chat box. I see there's a couple from the beginning of the meeting. I will start reading. So the average daily attendance, we do not consider the number of students absent anymore. This was a question from Gail.
Not under the summer food service program. It is the number of meals divided by operating days, okay? And then it is that number rounded up.
Okay,
It's,
and then
it's a lot easier for anyone that is doing the claiming, submitting the claim for reimbursement under the summer program. I think you are probably quite happy about how easy that claim is to complete. It asks for a lot less information than claiming under the school meals program. So that's a bonus. Easier claiming.
Okay, next question is from Dana. We would not have to complete the claim consolidation form that is under the desk review as long as we use the reports in our software program, correct?
And Dana, that is true. If you are continuing to use your software system for your point of service, that is fine. That is great. Because you can run a report with each day's count, and then it adds up for the end of the month. And that is what we're looking for. So yes, you can certainly do that.
And then there was a question, or maybe just a request from Donna. She wanted to see the last screen. If Donna, if you want to unmute yourself, I can go back to that screen. I'm not sure where we were in the presentation. If you want to let me know. And then the next question, is it required to take and log employee temperatures? Some schools are no longer taking student temps.
That has never been a requirement under our program.
It's the only requirement if the school has it as a requirement. And that would be between the local health departments and the school.
Okay, and then there's a question on the grant, Beth. Will the grant cover a walk-in freezer?
That is a great question. And whoever asked that question, if you will shoot me your email in the chat box, I will have Sarah answer that.
Thanks, Beth. And then Gail has another question regarding the claim. If I already submitted claim for October and took into consideration the number of absent, is there a way to correct this?
And Gail, your claim went through just fine? I'm hoping Gail, it must have, or else she would have had an error message and would have contacted our office. You can certainly go in and change your claim. It's within that 60-day window. Remember, we said October claims have to be submitted by the end of December, and I have to go back and look at my chart I believe it was December 30th. So you can certainly go back in, and if the claim has not been paid, it's simply changing your information. If the claim has been paid, it is a revision to the claim to get that information correct.
John, she indicated that her claim did go through with the number she had submitted, so
it may be a non-issue at this point.
Looks like they've already been paid.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Sure.
Moving forward,
Okay.
It's easier to just divide total meals by number of days and round up.
All right, next question. We are handing out weekend meals right now. We have a pre-K class that operates Monday through Thursday. Can we offer weekend meals to these students? If yes, for 2 or 3 days.
You can offer for the 3 days. There wouldn't be anything that would prohibit you from doing that if you would choose to. So you're already distributing weekend meals. And once again, with any of this, it's the students actually have to want the meals, okay? So don't assume that all of your children actually want the meals. There has to be a system of requesting the meals that are sent home. It's just not an automatic. So for your pre-K that operate Monday through Thursday, they're part of your enrollment and certainly can be offered meals for weekends and for that Friday.
That is all we have in the chat box.
Okay.
But
So
I
now
see,
we're gonna,
unless someone sees something else that I'm not seeing.
I am looking through and I'm not seeing anything because we're at the end of the chats. So opening it up, or you can ask your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute.
What's going on?
Any questions out there that you're just, gosh, how do I do this? What about this? To unmute yourself, you will find it in the lower right, left-hand side of your screen. We always look forward to hearing from you. Maybe it's just a sign that everything is going so well. Does anyone want to share their successes? What has went well? What hasn't went well?
I feel that we're finally back in a groove. I think we've all kind of figured it out already, and we're feeling comfortable doing what we're doing. We're pretty much like we were last year, just feeding the kids like we were. So I don't know. Here in Wilbur, we feel like we're back in our groove. So.
Thanks, Elaine, for speaking up. I'm glad that that comfort level has returned. It has been quite the ride for school food service, for school folks, for kids, for everyone.
I think the only challenge though is I'm getting frustrated is some of the items we can't get in from the vendors. You know, we're having still a hard time getting products in. So I think that's the most frustrating part of it. But otherwise we make everything go work. So
what are some products you're having difficulty getting?
Well, like sometimes juice or paper products. Right now the cutlery product, the wrapped forks and spoons and everything, I'm having a hard time getting. Just different things like that from different weeks. So.
And some of that's pretty essential that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you can't get the wrapped plasticware, what are you doing?
Well, luckily I've had enough backed up in the back room. I'm trying to keep a little ahead, but I'm getting to the point I'm about out. And gloves too. It seems like the gloves that we really like are very hard to find. So, you know, that it's a hit and a miss on getting those. So.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. Anybody else having difficulty receiving supplies, food items?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a yes, but I don't know any more than what are you having difficulty getting?
Different foods.
Oh, that's okay. Is that you, Dorothy?
Oh, yeah.
So
How
different
can
food
you
items.
tell? Huh? How can you tell?
Well, I know that voice. Well, it's good to see you, good to hear you. So what food items, Dorothy, are you having trouble getting up in Norfolk?
Well, we're having, when we order them, then we don't get them because they're either out or temporarily out, or like diced carrots. There's been a lot of meat. And then I have to tell my kids that we aren't going to have it. We have to change it. But they're pretty good about it.
So lots of flexibility is what you're saying is it's caused you to
Right.
kind of.
And I have a lot of yeah, and I have a lot of problems with the U.S. foods ones. I have more luck. You there?
Yes, I'm
I have more
US
luck
foods.
with I have more luck with Cashway than I do U.S. foods in getting my products.
Okay. Anybody else experiencing those issues?
And juices too.
Sean, I want to share what Judy put in the chat box
Sure.
regarding gloves. She did note that she contacted the Department of Health and they brought her a case of gloves. So if somebody is completely out and you have no means of getting them, it might be helpful to use her tip.
Yes. That was very helpful.
Jody also mentioned that it's helpful to find out when the distributors are getting their shipments of gloves in and then order as close to that day as you can. And then she gave an example that Cisco gets their shipment on Wednesday. So if you can get an order in on Thursday or Friday, you have a better chance of getting them. So those are great ideas.
We're seeing kind of a consistent theme in the chat box about gloves and containers and the plastic silverware. Someone's mentioned peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, pizza, sliced ham, turkey, which are from, I think, the US Foods.
We've been having problems getting the ham patties, also PB&J's, whole grain crackers. They don't always come in.
Ah, Kathy, thank you.
Lori.
The price on the gloves have gone up considerably too.
That's supply and demand thing.
Lori says in the chat box that my advice is to order early on high demand items like pizza and stockpile your condiments in wrapped silverware, paper, and foam products. She let her accountant know not to have a heart attack when she sees the invoices and keep your salespeople in the loop. They generally know what is coming or not coming down the pipeline. Be prepared with a meal plan B in case of outages, which are other good examples.
I know early on
we
in
have
serving, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we have limited space in our little kitchen to put things.
Yeah.
You've been
I
in
know.
our kitchen.
Yeah, I have too. Early on, we had Cashwa and we had U.S. Foods representatives come and talk at Serving Up Great School Meals. And that was at the beginning of the school year. And they had indicated at that time that there was going to be plenty of product, it seemed like, but that might have changed since the beginning of the school year as we have went on throughout this process, and things have gotten probably a little bit, they have been extended, and the type of how you have been serving meals has changed. So anything else from the group that we want to talk about? Some nice tips on maybe how to order differently so that you get the product you need. Finding out from your vendor when they receive their shipment so you can order accordingly. Maybe Heather says, I question if stockpiling can also cause shortages for others and can be unpredictable for vendors to keep things stocked, which is always a balancing act too. But some items you definitely need that you need, or you need to have a plan in place if you don't have them. So if you can't get the pre-wrapped plastic silverware, what's your plan moving forward to get it wrapped, and when can you do that, and how can you do that, and where can you store that? Are there any other questions or any other comments that anyone wants to add? This will be a record time for Serving Up Great School Meals in that we are wrapping up close to just an hour. Lori adds, it's not like we're sitting on pallets of items, just enough for 4 to 5 services is all. Organization is key, as is communication with your vendors, and I don't think that could be said any better. So I'm seeing a lot of Merry Christmas to everyone and happy and healthy New Year. We wish the same for all of you and your families, your staff, everyone at your school. And we look forward to seeing you again in January at the next Serving Up Great School Meals. Please mark your calendars. And if you have any questions, anything you need assistance with, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. So I think on that note, we will end it. And thank you very much for joining us today.